All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at penny stocks,
Ooh, exciting.
specifically IOUS, trading on the, you guessed it, OTC market.
Ah, yes, the Wild Web.
Our source. A YouTuber goes by Shades, who, well, he's known for his, how do I put this, colorful commentary on penny stocks,
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
especially those on the OTC. He's got a history with IOUS, and let's just say he's not exactly their biggest fan.
So not exactly a glowing endorsement then.
Not quite. What's interesting is he connects ILUS to some bigger trends, even brings up Mullen, another company that's, well, been having a rough time.
Yeah, I've heard of Mullen. Didn't they try to do a reverse split or something?
He calls it, get this, a permanent bear market for Mullen.
Uh-oh. That sounds ominous. What exactly does he mean by that, and why bring up Mullen in the first place?
Well, a bear market basically means stock prices are going down and they stay down for a while.
Okay, so like a prolonged slump.
Yeah, exactly. And he thinks Mullen's been stuck there since like 2021, and he's seeing some of the same red flags with ILUS.
Makes sense. I remember Mullen tried those reverse splits, right? To try and boost the share price.
Right, reverse splits. Decrease the number of shares to like artificially inflate the price per share.
So kind of a Band-Aid solution. Doesn't really address the underlying problems.
Exactly. It might look better on paper, but
That's not a long-term fix and
Yeah.
could actually make things worse, right? Erode investor confidence.
he seems to think so, especially if the company doesn't actually improve. It's this vicious cycle, needs more reverse splits just to stay afloat.
And that never ends well.
Speaking of red flags, Shades is really concerned about that recent price surge for ILUS, calls it a classic pump and dump scheme.
Ah, the good old pump and dump. Always got to watch out for those.
He even points the finger at another influencer, Moon Market, thinks they might be behind it.
Interesting. So how does that whole scheme work? I mean, for those who might not know.
So basically, someone hypes up a stock, gets everyone excited, price goes up.
Creates a frenzy.
Right. And then the people who orchestrated it, they dump their shares, price plummets, and everyone else, the bag holders, as he calls them.
They're left holding the bag. Literally. With stock that's basically worthless.
Okay, so we've got ILOS potentially repeating Mullen's mistakes, maybe even caught up in a pump and dump scheme. What's Shade's big prediction? What's going to happen to ILUS?
Well, he's not optimistic, to put it mildly. Thinks the price is going to keep tanking. Even uses the term triple zero.
Triple zeros. That's not good.
Not good at all. Means the stock could drop to, like, a fraction of a cent.
Ouch. And he's putting the blame on ILUS,
Mm-hmm.
not just like bad luck or market forces.
Right. He compares them to other penny stocks that have actually done well. Says the difference is how the company's acting. Or rather, not acting.
So they're basically self-sabotaging.
Pretty much. And he's not holding back on the criticism, especially about their communication or lack thereof. Calls out their leadership, Nick Lincoln Beckwell, for dodging tough questions and just not being transparent. Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's like they're trying to avoid any real scrutiny.
It's like, dude, if you're legit, prove it. He even calls out another financial commentator, Buffalo Fireside Chats, challenges him to, like, grill them, get some answers.
Oh, that would be an interesting interview.
Right. But at the same time, Shade seems almost resigned to this pattern with ILUS. He even makes this weird analogy to his own video.
His own videos. Okay, I'm curious. What's he getting at there?
He says he keeps making the same criticisms because they keep making the same mistakes.
So he's stuck in a loop, and he thinks ILUS is too.
Yeah, like a cycle of hope and then disappointment. And he's worried investors are stuck in that same cycle.
Doesn't sound like he sees a happy ending for anyone involved. So is he saying there's absolutely no hope for ILUS?
He doesn't totally rule it out. But he's putting a lot of weight on their next quarterly report, the next Q. Says if they don't use that to be upfront, be transparent, give some real info, well, it's not looking good.
Okay, so high stakes, last chance saloon kind of situation.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Even if he's being overly pessimistic, he's definitely raising some serious red flags here.
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways, the things our listeners should be thinking about, even at this point?
Well, for one, penny stocks, as much as we like to talk about them,
Are risky.
they are. And especially in a market like this, it's easy to get caught up in the hype and forget that.
You could lose everything.
Exactly. Shade's whole analysis, whether you agree with all of it or not.
It's a good reminder to be careful, to do your research.
Do your due diligence. Don't just trust what you see on YouTube or social media.
And definitely not just because some influencer said so.
Exactly. Think for yourself, folks.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the money, right? It's about, like, the human element, too.
What do you mean?
Well, Shades keeps coming back to the leadership at ILUS, their communication or lack of it.
Right, like they're hiding something.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, are they just incompetent or are they, intentionally misleading people?
He even compares them to, was it George Sharp, another commentator who's been pretty critical of ILUS?
Yeah, George Sharp, he's been sounding the alarm on them for a while now.
Like it's not just Shades. Other people are seeing the same red flags.
Right. And remember, Shades doesn't hold back. He even uses the word scam.
Yeah, he didn't mince words there. But, I mean, can we really blame him? The guy's clearly frustrated.
I get it. Broken promises, lack of accountability, that's not a good look for any company.
Especially not a penny stock.
Especially not a penny stock. And it's interesting. He contrasts ILUS with other penny stocks, ones that have actually done well.
Saying they're more transparent.
Right. They're open about their challenges, their plans. They build trust with investors.
Which ILUS is clearly not doing.
Not even close. And then there's that weird thing he said about his own videos.
Oh, yeah, that whole meta thing. I still don't quite get it.
Well, he's basically saying he keeps finding himself repeating the same criticisms.
Because they keep making the same mistake.
Exactly, like a broken record. And that's what worries him. He sees this pattern of hype and broken promises, and he's afraid investors are going to get burned.
Again and again.
Right. And even though he's trying to expose what's going on, he's worried that by even talking about ILUS, he's giving them more attention.
Unintentionally contributing to the hype.
Maybe. It's like he's wrestling with his own role in all of this.
It's pretty deep when you think about it. So what's the solution? What does he think needs to happen to break this cycle?
Well, he keeps coming back to the next quarterly report. That next Q, he calls it.
Like it's make or break?
He thinks so. Says if they don't use that opportunity to be completely transparent.
Lay it all out there.
Everything. Financials, plans, the whole 9 yards. If they don't do that, he says, well, it's not a good sign.
So this is their last chance to prove everyone wrong.
Pretty much. And he's not just talking to the company. He's talking to potential investors, too. Saying, hey, be careful. Don't get sucked in by the hype.
Don't just blindly follow what some influencer's telling you.
Exactly. Think for yourself, people. And that's so important, especially now with social media and everyone trying to sell you something.
It's easy to get caught up in the noise.
So true. So, big picture, what can we learn from all of this? I mean, obviously, penny stocks are risky.
We've established that.
But even if you're thinking about dipping your toes in,
Maybe just a little toe.
there are things you got to watch out for. Like Shades said, transparency is key.
If they're not willing to be open, walk away.
100%. And look at their track record. Have they kept their promises in the past?
Like that Dubai deal he mentioned.
Exactly. And don't fall for hype. Look at the fundamentals. What are they actually doing? Do they have a real business plan? Do they have a path to profitability?
So basically, look beyond the shiny marketing and buzzwords.
And most importantly, look at the leadership. Who are these people? Do they have a good reputation? Do they have experience? Can you trust them?
Because if you can't trust the people at the top,
It doesn't matter how good the product is or how fancy their website is.
you're taking a huge gamble, especially with penny stocks.
Exactly. Remember, they don't have the same level of oversight and regulation as bigger companies.
So you got to be extra careful.
Be skeptical, question everything, and don't be afraid to walk away if something doesn't feel right.
Words to live by. So we've talked a lot about the risks of penny stocks.
The dangers of hype, the importance of due diligence.
But let's go back to that phrase Shades used, permanent bear market.
Right, the doom and gloom scenario.
What causes that kind of situation? And is it really permanent?
Well, a bear market usually happens when there's a lot of pessimism in the market. Investors are scared, they're selling their stocks.
So it's not just about one company doing badly, it's a bigger trend.
Exactly. It could be because of a recession, rising interest rates, even just like a general lack of confidence.
And for penny stocks, it's even worse.
Oh, yeah, they're way more vulnerable. Smaller companies, less established, they don't have the same resources to weather a storm.
So when he talks about a permanent bear market for Mullen, he's basically saying they're in deep trouble.
Yeah, like they're stuck in a downward spiral, and it's going to be really hard to break out of it.
And he sees some similarities with Ilus, right?
He does, thinks they're making some of the same mistakes, especially with transparency and communication.
Like they're not doing enough to inspire confidence.
And they're not giving investors a reason to believe in their future.
So even if they come out with some amazing news in their next quarterly report,
It might not be enough.
they need to address these bigger issues, these underlying problems.
If they want to have any chance of surviving, let alone thriving.
So for anyone out there thinking about investing in ILUS, or any penny stock for that matter.
Keep that in mind. A bear market makes everything harder.
Amplifies the risks.
It's like trying to climb a mountain in a blizzard,
You might make it, but it's going to be a lot harder.
and you might not make it at all.
So we've painted a pretty, well, not so rosy picture of penny stocks, especially in a bear market.
Definitely a high risk, high reward kind of game.
But let's say someone's listening and they're still thinking, hey, maybe I'll take a chance. What can they do to, protect themselves? Like, what were some of those red flags Shades talked about?
Well, he kept coming back to transparency, or rather, the lack of it. Like, if a company's being cagey about their financials, their operations, their plans, that's a huge red flag.
So what are you hiding?
Right. And remember how he was going on about ILUS and their leadership, dodging questions, not being upfront with investors?
Yeah, like they were trying to sweep everything under the rug.
And then there's the whole issue of broken promises. If a company's got a history of saying one thing and doing another, well, that's not exactly confidence inspiring.
And he had that example, the Dubai deal that fell through.
Exactly. Over-promising and under-delivering, classic penny stock tactic. And then, of course, there's the hype machine.
The influencers, the pump and dumps.
Yeah, gotta be careful with that. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, but if there's no substance behind it,
It's all going to come crashing down.
and who's gonna be left holding the bag? Not the influencers, that's for sure.
So look beyond the hype. Look at the fundamentals. What are they actually doing? Do they have a real product, a real plan?
And just as important, who's running the show? Look at the leadership team. Do they have experience, a good track record? Do they seem, trustworthy?
Because if you can't trust the people at the top, you're basically throwing your money away.
Especially with penny stocks where there's less oversight, less regulation.
There's a wild west out there.
So yeah, be careful, do your research, and don't be afraid to walk away if something smells fishy.
Basically, trust your gut.
Your gut is usually right.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. Penny stocks, bear markets, the whole shebang.
It's a lot to take in.
But the big takeaway here is knowledge is power. The more you know about a company, about the market, about the risks involved,
The better decisions you'll make.
and the less likely you are to, get burned.
Exactly. So stay informed, stay vigilant, and always, always do your own research.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
And until next time, happy investing.